Hello everyone, and welcome to scripting in MagicSpells for roleplay servers, I guess. 208. We're going to be doing one more episode of spell deliveries, and after that we're going to be looking into a little bit more complicated stuff such as modifiers, variables, triggers, etc. You may have noticed I haven't uploaded in a while. I've been very focused on actual development work for SneakyRP. And also I had a bit of an oopsie which caused my developer sandbox to get deleted, so that was kind of a hurdle that I had to overcome before getting back into this. But like I said, episode 208, we're going to be doing one more spell delivery episode and then move on to some more complicated spell systems. What we're looking at today is mark spells. What's a mark spell? A mark spell is you place a mark on the ground. By default it's an invisible mark, but you could of course animate it to make it visible. And then later on you can have a spell appear out of that mark. How you can imagine this is, for example, a hearthstone. Like World of Warcraft style, place a location, later on teleport back to it. Or you can imagine maybe a sticky bomb being placed down. What we're going to be working with today is a spell that spawns monsters. So we're going to be chaining like a projectile into a mark, and then we're going to be making a spell that spawns monsters at the mark. So that's what we're doing today. So as is tradition, let's create a new file. Always try to do one file per item, unless it's like a very good reason for you to do multiple items in a single file. Spell tutorials, CastAtMarkSpell.yaml. Call this whatever. I'll just call it this. Okie dokie. So, as I said, I want to be starting out with a projectile. So let's take a look at our old code, because as you know, we will never shy away from our old code. We will need the cast item and the projectile spell. One of the, I don't know, wolf. I guess we're spawning a wolf. It's a stick. Right click is plant a wolf spawner mark. And oh, I did that wrong. And the left click will be spawn a wolf at the planted mark. As you probably know, this all is just text. Doesn't really do anything, it just makes her items look nice and polished. So what are we doing? Spawn a wolf at the planted mark. Comma e dot. The magic item. We're just gonna add the item to our inventory. Whoops. I have a name yet. So your load. Spawn item. Okay, so the one of the wolf. Now this should not do anything yet because we haven't assigned to do anything yet, and it doesn't, so that's perfect. So we're calling this one the wolfspawn projectile, and it's on the right click as the wolfspawn item. Let's take a look at our projectile spells to see what kind of projectiles we can use with that one. Let's make it an item projectile spell, that's interesting. Okay, so then projectile option changes to item. And want something wolf related, preferably from default Minecraft, but there aren't any. However, maybe we can make it a monster egg. Minecraft monster egg. What are those called? Not those. You know what? We'll make it wool. It's taking too long to figure out. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so the spell that we're gonna cast there. Slightly different formatting since we're using a item projectile spell instead of a normal projectile spell. Identity wolf mark. Mark. Okay, now we're going to be making mark. Very easy one to make. Mark spells don't actually have all the many options. The only thing that's really important is permanent marks. Because by default it's set to a permanent mark, which means that if you relog then the mark will still be there, but that also means that it has to be saved in permanent storage, so it'll make per spell, it'll make a new text file, which I think is just not necessary for what we're doing here, so we're going to set the permanent mark to false. Serial load. Let's see what it does right now. Okay, so we're throwing wool. It's planting a mark, but we can't really see the mark yet. At least we assume it's planting a mark. We're gonna find out if it actually is. Spawn. Now, in order for it to spawn at this mark, we have to do a CastAtMarkSpell. A CastAtMarkSpell is a simple sort of halfway point where all you have to do is say what mark do you want it to cast at and what spell do you want to cast there. You can put in most targeted spells. If it's ground targeted, you can put it here. So that's wolfspawn-CastAtMark. Formatting MarkSpell is wolfspawn-mark. Wait, a string. The spell will be called wolfspawn. So this is basically telling us we want to be casting the spell wolfspawn-spawn at the mark wolfspawn-mark. As I said, CastAtMarkSpell is very basic stuff. It's just sort of a halfway point for you to tell your script what it's supposed to be doing. Let's add a cast item to this. Left click, so we remove right click. Spawn monsters, it's deprecated in 4.0, but we're using 3.5, so that's fine. This is already the example spell here already spawns a wolf, so that helps us with our coding. That was what our name was going to be. Don't need a cooldown. Location target. Sure, we can make it tamed. If I left click, a wolf should come out. There we go. It instantly snaps to me because it's a tamed wolf, so it likes to be next to me. Let's make them untamed so they don't do that. Bye wolfies, I love you. Tamed. False. Wolf, 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 wolf. Okay, bunch of wolves. Now, as you notice here, I could use the same mark multiple times. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to make it a one-time use mark. So what are we going to do then? Going to go into our spell list. Mark again. I would really advise that you don't try to type things from memory. I of course don't know how your brain works, but in my head it's much easier to remember useful pieces of code that I can copy from than actually try to type things manually. Like, for example, this is called a remove mark spell. If you type this manually, you might forget the capital M, and then your whole spell doesn't work, and you're just sitting there scratching your chin for 20 minutes figuring out why your spell doesn't work, when it's such a basic problem as a missed capitalization. Move mark. Wolf spawn remove mark. Let's make the radius 999. You know the max radius is actually 500, but it doesn't matter. Point blank, that just determines if it's on your location or on your target. Doesn't really matter right now since we're working with a 999 radius. Name of the mark is wolfspawn-mark. Okay, so now we're gonna make it so that when we cast our CastAtMarkSpell, that the next thing that happens is the mark gets removed. So we're making a little MultiSpell. Again, we go to the wiki because we're not gonna be wasting time. On messed up formatting. So we're making this a MultiSpell, which we've already treated in one of our earlier lessons, I think like 203 or something like that. And we are casting our CastAtMarkSpell because our CastAtMarkSpell will cast our spawn spell, followed by our remove mark spell. And then of course we move our cast item from our casted mark to our MultiSpell. Now, what this does, it should now be a one-time use. Throw it, use it, wolf spawns, use it again, you do not have a mark rectified. Throw it, wolf spawn, do it. Perfect. We made it one-time use. Which is, of course, mandatory for something like, you know, let's say a sticky bomb or something, because those blow up on you, so you want those to only be one-time thing. Now, next week we want to be doing. Let's make it so that our mark is a little bit animated. That's interesting. Now, there's two ways that you can do this. Let's do the simple way first. Looking at my first dummy spell, since we have a good example of an effect lib effect here. We're just going to be adding an effect lib effect to the mark itself, which is effect lib position target. Sure, we can make it a flame sphere. Of course, we have to change the relative offset here. I'm going to get a radius of 1. Now this should already animate our mark a little bit. There we go. Now we can actually see where the wolf's going to come out of. Of course, if you've done your experimentation with effect lib, you'll know how to exchange this sphere of flame with whatever you want it to be. Now here's our problem. We set a duration on the effect, and that is when it despawns. Even when we use it, as we know the mark's now gone, we still see flames because we set a duration, so it's going to keep on going. Now, in the past, we've talked about effects that disappear with target entity or effects that disappear with source entity. But since a mark isn't an entity, that isn't going to cut it for us here. So we're going to do things slightly differently. You may remember the MultiSpell episode we made loops. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be making a little mark loop. Now in MultiSpells there should be an option like there should be an option in the MultiSpell that makes it fail if you don't have a valid target. Yeah, stop on fail, that's the one. But it's default true, so we shouldn't have to use it here. Here's WhatsApp. Let me just mute that for you guys. That's annoying. So since it's already default, we shouldn't have to change anything about that. So we're going to do mark-dummy, which will be my first dummy spell. Let's just copy this entire thing over. Going to be targeted dummy spell, where the effect happens at the target. Let's make it just a 1 second, because of course effect clip measures duration in milliseconds, so 1000 is going to be 1 second. There we go. So this should be our animation spell done. Works there. Yeah, this is a target spell. The target entities right now, but we're gonna work on that. That's gonna be fine because we need a CastAtMark. It's a very lazy name, but let's just roll with it. Basically what we're doing here is we're creating a normal animated dummy spell as we did in episode, what is it, 103 or something. It was in the 100 series. We're just making an effect lip dummy spell that we're casting at our mark, and then we're going to be looping that. So that should all be good. Now we want to do that. Delay 20, because delay is measured in ticks and not in milliseconds, so we need 20 if we want to do a 1 second delay. Right, so we're going to be throwing this mark. Still the old animation going off. Let's delete that while we're at it. Now it should stop because we haven't actually added the animation yet, so let's hardcast the loop. There we go. Nice animated mark. This is an interesting problem that we're not actually going to tackle in this episode, but it's something. This is of course the loop trying to animate the mark that doesn't exist anymore. Actually, we can do a quick workaround, which is kind of a sloppy way of doing this, but sure. Because we can just remove that error message. That's what we're gonna do here. CastAtMarkSpell, that is the str-no-mark. Show you guys immediately how you can remove an error message. Do it for the other one as well. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to make it so that this animation loop goes off the moment we throw this projectile, which is of course done by starting it all with a multi. So we're gonna open this up with a multi. Again, move our cast item because we don't want the same cast item on two different spells. That's gonna get confusing. First we throw the projectile, start the loop. Zero load. Throw out this projectile. Ooh. Doing a thing, isn't it? What's going wrong? I should delete a lot of the spells that are in this sandbox because they're just causing error messages all around. Try to hardcast this. As you can see, even after 1,000 scripts, my spells still get glitches, so don't you worry about that. This guy is causing problems. Why is it causing problems? It helps to have a very long beard while you do scripting, especially since we're scripting magic spells. Just whatever makes you feel more like a wizard. Whatever makes you feel more like a wizard is going to help you make more effective spells. I see the problem. Both our multis have the same name. Now it should work. Ba-boom. There we go. Nice animated mark. And we left click and a wolf pops out and the animation stops. By the way, you can only have one of each mark. So if I throw this again, that guy stops. Also, because of how we set this up, it's going to get more animated the more I throw out. So let's just explore the glitch that we set ourselves up for. That is, of course, because we forgot to do a thing that I told us to do when I taught the stuff about making loops, and that is our loop doesn't actually have a termination condition. Now there's many ways that we can add termination conditions, but those are part of modifiers, which we haven't treated yet, because that'll be like lesson, I don't know, 302 or 301 or something. It'll be in a 3 series, one of the next videos. So we're just gonna end the episode here. I'm gonna post all these this script in the description, as is tradition, and you'll be able to look through what I made here, try to replicate it yourself, see what you can do. I'm curious to hear what type of things you'll be able to make of this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you.